You ready? All right, guys, welcome back to Fabrication 101. It's great to see you guys back. Long time no see. It's been a minute, I think. Behind me is one of my new favorite vehicles. It's a 1952 GMC Canyon dump truck. And if I have to explain to you why I'm excited about owning a dump truck, I don't think we can be friends. To be honest, I'm not going to be using this as a dump truck. It's for a couple of different projects. This front clip, I'm going to be turning into a water feature in my backyard. And I'm kind of curious if you guys would like to be a part of that build and see how that's done. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll figure it out as I go. If you'd like to be a part of that build, shoot me a comment down below in the comment section, say yes or no on the water feature build. The dump bed, I want to convert it into a dump trailer. I want to build it. Everything works. It doesn't run very well right now, and it absolutely has no brakes. The front, or the brakes, went all the way to the floor when I was getting this thing loaded the other day. The driver's side door is broken, doesn't latch. It's in rough shape, but it's perfect for what I want to do with it. So pretty excited about this thing. If you're following me on my Instagram, you'll see that I brought this home the other day, loaded it on my borrowed gooseneck trailer with the rear mounted 12,000 pound winch in my truck, and it worked extremely well. So anyway, I'm super excited about this. This is not what this video is about, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys that thing. I alluded to a very, very big project that I was working on. That is not it. I am working on another much larger project that hopefully I'll be able to share with you guys. I don't want to get too excited about it until everything's in place. But once I do, once everything's in order, I will share that with you guys, and hopefully you guys are excited about it as I am. So what's this video about today? Once I get back here in the shop, let me lighten this sucker up. Because it is super bright outside. We've got some more goodies for the Bronco, some more stuff to work on. Particularly my boost gauge and pyrometer for this thing. And I have this really, really nice, what I think is really nice, Dakota Digital VHX gauge. And I've got the modules to have my pyrometer and my boost gauge show up down here in these little digital fields, which I think is going to be super cool. So here we got my boost pressure gauge and the little module that goes with it, and then my pyrometer and its module. They basically tie together and then go into the main control box for the display or the digital gauge. Pretty sweet little setup. I think they're kind of pricey, but in reality, I think that they're about the same as if you were buying a really high quality gauge, because these are good quality. This is quality stuff. Anyway, we're going to be putting the boost gauge is going to be pretty simple. I just got to tie it into one of the ports in the intake. And there's a couple different places to choose from. I can put it in one of these two, probably not that one since it's under the fuel line. Could put it there, that'd be nice and easy. There's also one up here I could tie into. I think there's a couple other ones back in there too that I could hide it in. I think I might just go in here. This is probably going to be the easiest place to tie that into. And then the pyrometer gauge, that one's going to take a little bit more work. That one we're going to tie into the top of the exhaust manifold. Ideally, I mean, you can put these after the turbo or before the turbo, and I think ideally, in my opinion, it should be before the turbo. That gives you the most accurate exhaust temperature rating. And I really don't want to mess with my exhaust wrap on here because I'd have to take that off and rewrap it once I get the the bung welded in. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the turbo off so I can see where everything looks. But I'm thinking I'm just gonna either drop it right here next to this runner, or even in this runner. I think here would be better because it's gonna pick up. I forget if it's this one and this one, 2 and 4. I don't remember exactly, but it kind of splits. I do believe this thing is divided in here. You can see where this is actually a modified manifold where I cut this flange off and rotated it up because the turbo wouldn't fit in here without it being moved. So surprisingly enough, these welds have not cracked. These were stick welded with a nickel rod. They're a little banged up from the peening process, but so far so good. No cracks or any exhaust leaks there. So anyway, we'll get to pulling. We'll pop this turbo off. I don't think I need to take it completely off, but I do want to get it out of the way so that we don't have to worry about chips, drilling chips or threading chips getting down inside the turbos. So we'll pop the turbo off, which shouldn't be terribly difficult because it's still relatively new. We got to pop the exhaust and the intake off, and then a couple of lines, and it should come right out. So we'll do that real quick, and then we'll get to mounting those. What do they call them? Sending units, sensors, probes, something or other. Turbo's out. I believe this is an HX30. This is the stock turbo that was in the truck. I did modify my wastegate mount a little bit. I was careful to try not to change the lever here a little bit, because that is one way you can adjust the boost in these things, is to change the length of this arm or change the way that the leverage is applied, but I didn't want to do that. So anyway, this kit comes with a pretty nice little threaded bung. It's stainless steel that you can weld into your exhaust. But since I'm going to be putting this into the manifold, I'm going to drill and thread it with this this pipe tap. This is a quarter pipe, national pipe tap. Why do I keep saying natural? Anyway, I got to pre-drill it, 7/16 hole. 7/16 hole for the first hole, or for the main hole. I'll drill it with this starting. And the whole reason I pulled the turbo off is because I don't want to have a bunch of shavings falling down into my turbo. So we'll get it set up, we'll center punch it, drill it, get it threaded, and then really realistically we'll just be putting it back together. Try not to make fun of me. I like to run a 12-point socket to hold my taps. I cannot find my 3/8 drive 1/2-inch 12-point, so I have a 1/2-inch drive with a 3/8 to 1/2-inch adapter on my little 3/8 ratchet. I know some people are probably gonna complain about the placement of this port. I know it's not ideal. I really don't have a good place to put it. Ideally it would have been nice to put it like in this flange, either on the side, but the size of this tap and the size of the flange, I would be a little too worried about being able to make that work without tearing something up or breaking my flange or something. I don't know. But the nice thing is this cast actually taps pretty nicely. If you're not familiar with pipe thread, these pipe threads are tapered so that it seals as you're threading the part in. You can add some Teflon tape if you feel the need to. With this exhaust, I probably won't put anything in there. They do make like high temperature sealant for this kind of stuff. I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue for me for this project, but you want to be aware of how far in you're threading these. I'm going to thread it in a little bit, we'll run it out, and then we'll try the fitting, see how far it goes in there. If I feel like it needs to go in a little further, then we'll go in a little further, but what you want to do is make sure you don't bottom out your fitting before it gets tight and sealed in there. So, all right, we'll pull that out, and we'll see how it looks. Okay. Nicely threaded hole. Go grab my fitting and we'll see how it fits. I think I need to go in a little further because it's already getting kind of tight and barely even got it in there. The nice thing is this cast is fairly thick, so we should be able to get a good thread and good cut into it without having too many issues. Well, I might have to go to a bigger ratchet. So when you're drilling, you can see all those shavings, and even with tapping, there's shavings generated. And if my turbo was still on here, those would all be going right down into the turbo, which, you know, they might pass through, but as you know, it wasn't terribly difficult to pop that turbo off. I probably should have put a little cover on that. Let's see some shavings in my drain tube. Oh well, that goes down into the pan, so. All right, let's pull it out and check it now. Put that in there. Yeah, that's going a lot better. Let's try and tighten it down a little bit with the ratchet. This piece is also stainless steel. So actually, before I put this in here, I'm going to put some anti-seize on it and hope that that keeps it from getting galled up. Anytime you're putting stainless steel into steel parts or cast, it's not a bad idea to put some anti-seize on it. And I don't remember if it's stainless steel will gall, G-A-L-L, or galled, G-A-L-D. Anyway, what happens is the stainless comes off in little tiny bits and rolls up in the threads and pretty much makes a mess of everything and ruins your day. A little bit of anti-seize on there. It's a good idea, especially with the heat. That'll keep it somewhat pliable, removable, so that if you ever do need to replace it down the road, you don't have to fight to get it out. And that should be installed. And then we have our probe that threads down in there. We'll see how far it sticks in. Oh, it's right into the middle of the passage. That's pretty good. But yeah, that sucker, it's not touching and it's right in the middle of that passage, so that's pretty good. I doubt that I would be surprised. Oh, maybe we kind of do have the right size wrench to snug it up on there. All right, that's done. Well, we got to hook everything up. This will bend a little bit. We don't want to get too crazy with it. Maybe I can bend it along with my turbo signal boost gauge over to the whatever that thing is. I can't think. My brain's broken. All right, well, it's time to bolt everything back together. Once that's done, then we can work on the boost pressure gauge, and then we can wire everything into where it goes. All right, turbo's all back in. Went pretty smooth. Pretty much just the opposite of removal. So I do have my probe leads here hanging across. I think I will try to just kind of bend it a little bit and lay it across like this. I got some heat shrink here to shrink on the wires. Make sure they don't, I can just tie it off to this guy here. And then I don't have a bushing to go from this, but I can go to here. So I'm gonna pull this little fitting out. I'm gonna put an elbow on it and bring the fitting, the sensor up, maybe backwards. I don't know. We're gonna put it in, we'll see how it fits. And then we'll get to wiring. You can see I pulled out my control box. It mounts to this panel. That's where the actual vent used to be. But this is what I like. All your connections for the gauge are here. And it's one cable that goes to the back of the gauge. It really makes, I think, wiring and assembly pretty easy. So we'll go ahead and get our boost pressure sensor in here, and then we'll look at some wiring. All right, everything is wired in. I didn't really try to film much of that just because as tight as everything is in here, I could barely see what I was doing, let alone get a camera in here. But anyway, here's the control module for the temperature, and then here's the boost pressure gauge. This module over here is actually so that I can run a tack signal off of my alternator and get a good tack signal. So everything's hooked up. Let's turn the key on and we'll see if we have any magic happening in here. All right, so let's power it up. All right, so interestingly enough, it's reading 39 PSI for the pressure gauge. Kind of a cool thing here, if I can get my light to cooperate. If I touch my switches, make sure I'm hitting the right one. Oh, there I just was. The exhaust temperature I can use to check the actual outside air temp when the engine's not running. So right now it's 85 degrees. Kind of funny. All right, let's fire it up. I'm curious to see if that boost pressure will calibrate itself. I'm not quite sure why it's reading 35 or whatever PSI. So let's leave it on this one. Make sure everything's good to go. Now you can see the exhaust temperature is coming up quick. Make sure there's no oil leaks. Reading at 960, that's pretty good. Okay, I don't think my boost is 39 PSI. So I don't know if you could hear, most of when I was talking there, but I don't think I'm boosting at 39 PSI even with the engine off. So I'm sure that's a calibration issue somewhere. To figure out how to calibrate that. Exhaust temperature looks good, coming up nice and smooth. Come up fairly quickly. That port right there, I think we should be about 800 degrees, kind of normal. Maybe a little bit lower, about 800 when we're pulling hard. In reality, these are probably unnecessary because this thing's not going to be like a pulling rig or towing or whatever. But in order to try to tune this engine to get it as efficient as I can, I want to be able to know what my exhaust gas temperatures are and what my boost pressure reading is, so that I can get as accurate information as I can. So I think I'm going to play with trying to get that tuned or figure out what the troubleshooting is on that to figure out why I'm getting such a weird reading on my pressure sensor. But other than that, I think we're done for tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Make sure you give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Shoot me a comment about the water feature with the old dump truck. In the meantime, do me a favor, do yourself a favor and go build something.